I will call to order the meeting today on November 13th, 2025. It's 9:01, and I'm calling the meeting for the State Environmental Advisory Council to order. I'll introduce myself, and I know there's a member of the general public here. So my name is Dawn Hager Nordblom. I'm on the island of Maui. I apologize in advance. It's trash day, and my dogs might start barking when the trash guy goes by. So just FYI if it gets really loud on my end. And then Michelle.
Michelle Lefebvre, exemption chair, EAC on the Big Island in Hilo.
And I'm Rachel Sprague, member calling from Lanai.
Test. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Jay Stone. I'm on Oahu. I'm the vice chair. Sorry, my camera doesn't work all the time. It pops in and out. IT has not been able to fix it.
Thank you, Jay.
Tom Eisen here with Environmental Review Program at Central. The Zoom meeting is being monitored by other staff just to control the admission of people and things of that nature.
Okay. And then I think we have Douglas Lee, member of the German general public.
Good morning, members of the council. Thanks for the opportunity to testify on the agenda item 4 related to proposed rule amendments. My name is Douglas Namle. I'm president of the island of Hawaii. I submitted full testimony, but just want to kind of focus on a couple of points in the time I have with you all. Really want to commend the work of OPSD, the Environmental Review Program, and the council putting forth really thoughtful rule amendments. I think there's a lot of nuance in there, but absolutely some of the choices before you focus on, I think, steps that can clarify, help with transparency, facilitate public participation. And as a practicing planner, I think these are all things that we can fully support and appreciate leadership on that. I think the other point I wanted to raise was, really in response to Act 152, which did a lot of things, but really kind of shifted the jurisdiction of appeals for the non-acceptance of an environmental impact statement by an agency away from this council and to the environmental court was an appropriate step, right? And the record's pretty clear, even as the act was enacted. I think one opportunity that remains, though, was really clarifying that for the public, whether it's appropriate through these rules or through the work of the council. I think, in my experience, the non-acceptance of an EIS is not very common, given the hard work everyone puts into these types of disclosures. There's been a very well-publicized one recently, and as things come up to, I think both the parties involved in the environmental review process, as well as just members of the public, really want to know what happens next, what's at stake, and what are folks' rights in the process. So really want to commend the work that y'all are doing. And wanted to bring some focus to perhaps some area of work that could still be undertaken. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'm curious, as we go through the rule amendments and it goes to publication, and I assume that you know how rule amendments go for the state. So I'm sure that you'd like to be in on all of the relevant steps. Yeah.
I have a personal interest, right? But I'm also kind of approaching this as a interested member of the public, and happy to share where it's helpful.
Yeah, no, I think it's very helpful because I think if you're on the opposite end and we're missing things, and of course I'd like it to be pointed out. And so as we go through the process, I definitely would like you to give input or others to give input as well. So I definitely appreciate it. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to move to number 2, review and adoption of the minutes from Thursday, October 23rd. So I don't know if anybody took a look, but you guys need a couple minutes to review. Michelle did. No,
I already reviewed. I moved to approve the minutes.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. and now we have the director's report. Is that you, Tom, since Mary Alice is out of office?
She is not here, and actually she did not provide any report for me to offer to you, so.
Okay,
it's a bit-
well, this is easy. It was a good meeting. Okay, so I think we're going to switch number 4 and number 5 per a request earlier. So let's talk about the annual report. If that's okay. I took a first crack at it. Michelle took a second crack at it. And then Rachel, I sent you a draft separately this morning, and also Jay as well. So if you have comments, and you can get them to us, that would be great. And then I think we just give it to Tom. Is that right?
I have no comments.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jay-
I made like 2
Okay.
editorial edits, but didn't have any content
Okay,
changes.
great. Thank you, Rachel. And Jay, I wasn't sure if you had put forth any communication to the legislature.
No.
Okay, and then I had written in the staff report, annual report, that we would meet with the Chair Gabbard and Lowen. So I'm not sure what your schedule is, but maybe next year when, after, you know, they start session, we can come over and talk to them about their goals and our goals. Is that's okay?
Yes, that works. I'll get
yeah.
back to you on my schedule.
Yes, and Doug, I know you're still online, but you know, we're always looking for members. So we're at 4 right now, and there's actually supposed to be 13 volunteer members. So if you or anyone else knows would like to join, we definitely welcome more people, more members, please.
Like if Douglas has interest in putting in an
Yes.
application.
Yes, Douglas.
I will disclose I work for a county agency in the field of planning, and so there's a bunch of reasons why, but appreciate the thoughts. I will help spread the word though, because I can understand. I definitely saw the timely transition of a lot of longtime members in the past year, and can see the need for the council to build itself back up. So I'll help
Thank
get the
you,
word
Doug.
out.
Yes, we would appreciate that. Okay, so I think now we're going to go to the rules update and discussion. Would you guys mind if Doug went first? Or did you?
Maybe we
ahead.
should let Tom, since ERP
yeah.
drafted the rules, maybe it'd be
Okay.
good to have Tom sort of walk through. Yeah, Doug, for context, it was ERP that drafted the proposed changes to the rules. They're presenting it to council and the public for comments. Introduction by Tom.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, so just in a general way, we took the existing rules and even the format that they were, which were a little strange because they were the repeal of the old rules and then the adoption of the 11-200.1. So that was like the basis to start from. And then, so there's legacy of that, which is a little bit of a strange way to present the rules, I think, but it certainly, it worked. We tried to highlight, well, the initial change was basically purely, or the thought was housekeeping amendments, really to incorporate the changes that the statutory changes of moving OHUC into OP and the council coming along being converted to advisory only. So it was just the initial thought was just to capture those changes because the rules were out of step with the statute. And then it kind of morphed into suggesting some other changes, seemingly innocuous. That was the idea, that just we noticed areas for some clarification after implementing the rules for a few years, areas that seemed to be confusing. And so we tried to bring a little bit more clarity to it with the realization, okay, that's not necessarily housekeeping. And so it's there's some creep going on into the changes being more, I'm not going to use the word significant, that has meaning, but just, yeah, larger. And then certainly, but we're open to whatever change seems to be appropriate, and there's clearly a process that's going on. We've just taken the first step, and we're looking forward to your input. But the way that the changes were laid out, we tried to highlight all the areas in yellow. If you're wondering kind of what the color coding, that was just to bring your eyeballs to the areas that were changed. And then we used the formatting of striking through and bracketing proposed deleted text and proposed addition text. And it was not in really wholesale moving around, but there was the notion of adding a couple of breaking some long sections into smaller sections. So the numbering changed a little bit. Part of the notion of the change from OEQC and being part of Department of Health into OPSD, which is part of DBED, it requires a whole new numbering scheme. And that's why the chapter 11 is a DOH thing, doesn't apply anymore. In the DBED, which is chapter 15, and then we had a choice of a few numbering schemes, and 15-20 seemed to have a kind of rolls off the tongue. So we took that as kind of the numbering scheme for it that would replace the 11-200.1. Might be a little easier than that. And then, but otherwise the sections are mostly the same. Although I think somewhere around 8 or 9, we broke down what was some long sections, and so added some more sections. So the section numbering got a little out of sync with what they were, but it really wasn't the addition of anything significantly new. It was just to try to take some long sections and to make it more understandable. How successful we were, I guess time will tell. And then that you go through it, you probably notice there were some other kind of technical changes that I don't know if you wanted or intended to go through it kind of line by line, or how you want to deal with it. That could take a long time. I don't know if you've all had a chance to digest it or not, but that's just some of the background that went into it. But certainly core message is we're open to suggested changes as part of the process that it'll go through, and who knows what the outcome will be. But let's enjoy the ride.
Thanks, Tom. I think two of the ones obviously that jumped out to me, the big changes, which I thought were interesting, and I like the idea of sort of naming the part 1 and the part 2 exemption types. Part 1 was what was it?
Minimal, I believe.
Minimal and recorded, yeah. Minimal for
spent a lot of time wordsmithing, and some things we just threw up our hands and we can't even figure out words. So we're open to changes, but yeah, I mean, words matter, but you can get lost in it. Yeah, that was a point of trying to name that, because the part 1 and the part 2, that made sense if you understood the whole notion of the agency exemption lists, which became agency exemption list standardized. But outside of the context of that part 1 and part 2 doesn't really mean anything. So we thought naming what it was would help clarify it.
Definitely. The only thought I had on that, the second part 2 are recorded exemptions. I just wonder, and this might just be my ignorance on the state or county perspective, but might they record part 1s internally? Is there a process whereby agencies say, okay, this was a project, we thought about it, and we feel it falls under part 1. Might they record that in some way internally? Again, not recorded with the state. And I wondered if maybe published, but I don't know if that hits, sort of the intention behind the part 2, recorded, published. Something to chew
Yes,
on.
you can see you can struggle over words and make sense. As far as what's behind that, we don't really know what
Right.
do when they don't submit it to us for publication. The rules provide that part ones, as they're still called,
Mhm.
may be recorded and published, but it doesn't require it. And I suspect that the vast majority of cases with the part one de minimis ones, that they're not recorded in a formal way, how they maybe are accounted for internally with all the different agencies. Who knows? It could be a lot of different ways. The idea of the de minimis option is to have a very kind of easy process for seemingly innocuous projects. And being cognizant of that, we didn't want to start potentially changing that.
Oh yeah, no. This like you said, it's wordplay. It's not. Yeah. No, certainly not.
Yeah.
Not.
But if you
again,
can come
not
up
part of
with
it.
a better word that captures it, we're all ears.
And to your
But again,
point,
I don't expect, I mean, I'm kind of maybe presuming this review process is going to be an iterative thing and not expecting like this is your one bite at the apple. That's expected today that you give us everything.
right, everything,
Certainly
right?
imagine that there's going to be some need for digesting, and exactly what that timeline is, we don't know. We're just kind of putting it out there for the first time right now.
Yeah, I definitely like that idea, Tom. It's hard to think of everything on the first cut. Another one that jumped out for me was the ADA compliance. Again, just being in the space that I'm in, and hearing from others, who prepare EAs and EISs, the challenges of meeting the state's ADA compliance requirement. And I dug in a bit on the issue, and it can be something we come back to later. But I think there are federal guidelines. There's regulations and guidelines that guide what is ADA compliance. When a federal document is compliant with ADA, they call it 508. Compliance on the federal side, but an ADA is federal law. But there are a set of guidelines that dictate what that compliance looks like. And I think right now the state's process for checking for compliance doesn't like when we all receive feedback that a document isn't passing a compliance, the state's compliance check doesn't necessarily mean it's not meeting the ADA compliant. Like it is meeting ADA compliance. It's just not meeting the way that ERP is doing that check right now. And I think there's not necessarily the wording in the proposed wording in the rules that I have an issue with. I think maybe it's just a broader discussion on the process and maybe state guidelines for how the state's doing that compliance check.
We're operating from guidance that we've received from kind of overall of the state, how all the state agencies, and to our understanding, all county agencies also are supposed to be implementing this federal mandate for that. So it's been a big learning curve, and I suspect it's not cast in stone how it is. It may change.
Certainly,
So,
and I wouldn't want to codify that in the rules for a process that could, change over time. But I think there are implications for the way that I think the checks are happening now, whereby preparers, both, on the private side, but on the public side as well, may adjust the way that they prepare EAs and EISs to sort of avoid the issues that are coming up through the compliance, the way that we're doing compliance checks now. I guess again, maybe it's not a concern with the language as it is, but more implications from.
Yeah, I believe we just said it, that has to be compliant with it, whatever it is, it just has to be compliant with it. And I would contend that even if it wasn't in the rules, it's still a requirement for it to be compliant. We just thought that by stating that, it's out there in the open for everyone to know and realize and understand that was a thing, but I think the submittal process allows us to ask for things, whatever we think is necessary, and it be compliant. Could be
Like
that, but I think it's a bit clearer if it's stated. And the notion of just using something fairly broad and bland like compliant with, rather than giving very specific direction what it actually has to be, because that could change.
Right. And so maybe, and this is a topic we could agendize for further discussion in terms of compliance.
Sure.
More of the people in the room that that help do that check for ERP. But I think it does warrant further discussion. I think as it becomes, when is it becoming a requirement? So I think a lot of people are choosing the option of
April of 2026 is the date that we've been.
So
we've been just trying to give everyone kind of a heads up and be ready for it, so it doesn't just plop on your lap unexpectedly. And our submittal process allows for the publishing, the submittal and our publishing of things that may not be compliant, that you have to acknowledge that it may not be compliant, as opposed to acknowledging that it fully is compliant. And we'll allow that for a period of time.
And I think there's an issue when we, again, maybe this is better for a separate discussion, that documents may be compliant, but not pass the way that the state is conducting their accessibility check. So that there are other ways of meeting compliance and I understand the state's got guidance on how we're doing it now, but I think there's a gap between, we do our firm does this compliance, with federal agencies, right? Same law, same rules, and generate reports that demonstrate compliance according to those guidelines, those federal guidelines. I think they're WCAG, WCAG 2.2A are those compliance guidelines. And so we demonstrate compliance, but then the state runs a check and then says, oh, but it's not compliant. But there's a gap between the state's check and then other software. So I think just we need maybe a little more discussion. I certainly would like to be part of that.
Yeah,
don't have to dominate this discussion. And like I said, I think other players could be in the room too.
Well, we could get lost in a million wormholes on this. For sure.
Again, I just worry about implications, as we, it's not just telling people they have to comply, it's telling them how specifically the state is doing that check. And I think, whether, guidance accompanies, again, no issue with the way that it's stated in the rules right now. It's very broad, like you said, but, supplementing that with guidance specifically, that could be updated as software changes or as state guidance.
Yeah. Well, this probably will be a discussion or argument that needs to go to even way beyond us.
Agreed.
So then it's a statewide thing, and we've gotten statewide guidance on how
to
implement it. So
totally.
And here's where else.
I have a comment on this discussion though. Is it actually the Americans with Disabilities Act that requires electronic documents to be compliant? Is it the act itself, or is it actually something else? That's my comment about how it's worded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an expert on the depth behind the ADA, so I don't really know the specifics.
Right, because my understanding is
get back.
Yeah, my understanding is it's actually a not necessarily the act in and of itself, but some other documentation or standards that then the ADA provides the underlying law that gives the authority and jurisdiction to the government to then issue a standard that says this is then now compliant with the intention of the law, the letter or intention of the law. And so the way that's the concern I have with the way it's worded, and only that. how, I don't, yeah, I'm not sure if that's the right way to word it.
It looks like this is a very quick search, but April 24th, 2024, the Federal Register published a Justice Department final rule updating regulations for Title II of the ADA. And that final rule had requirements for how to ensure that web content and other electronic documents were accessible to people with disabilities. So it's, yeah, I'm not sure that's
Yeah, and Section 508 has been around a long time on the federal side, and that's a part of the ADA that requires all federal documents that are published, that are electronic, are accessible.
Right.
So I know about Section 508 on the federal side. Obviously, this
Yes.
is under the same law that the state is referring to, ADA compliance. But so I'm assuming it's tiering to that Section 508 for a federal document.
Yeah, that's my only comment, is whether or not that's how it should be worded, and if that's actually the thing that's requiring the compliance.
Yeah, we'll check on that and get back.
Did you see the text that Kim sent you?
And then if you guys are okay, maybe Doug can weigh in on his submittal that he gave us. Doug, are you still online?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So after that conversation, do you have additional points besides whatever you submitted?
I think so really was expecting to listen in on the room, but I appreciate kind of the really in-depth thought that the council's using to take a look at this. I'm not legally trained in ADA issues, but I think Jay's on to an important point around kind of really referencing not only the statute but the regulation itself, if the council were to incorporate this into the rules.
Thank you. Did you want to go through your testimony, or you just wanted us to read it?
I mean, I think for me, I was okay with just hitting on the major points. I think the weightiest one is really going to be how applicants that face a non-acceptance by the agency are really going to appeal, and kind of that being reflected in the rules or the public information. But yeah, I mean, I think just wanted to speak up in support of the work that's going on, and provide those details. So I'm good if you all are good with the testimony I provided earlier.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for support instead of you don't support. That's really important. I definitely was looking at the very end part where you're saying having a table would facilitate for the general public the process, which I agree with as well. So I appreciate your testimony. Mary Alice, did you want to do your director's report by any chance?
First of all, I apologize for being late to the meeting. I thought I had a Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation meeting this morning. It was supposed to start at 9, but it did get canceled. No, I don't have any updates at this point. Tom, did you have any updates?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so are we at, I'm sorry, are we now, we did the annual report, right? I think we discussed that a little bit. Rachel and Michelle. Did Michelle go off? No.
Okay.
Oh,
No,
okay.
yeah.
I think we talked about it.
You just said that, you sent it to Jay and Rachel, and they both provided their feedback already. So I think just incorporating those, accepting the changes done, and then I guess sending it to Tom. I
Okay,
put in a figure from the, another figure from the forum that we held at HCPO as the cover, just because I felt like it reflected what the council did as opposed to a cover. I know we had discussed a cover from one of the TNs, but it felt more relevant to what we did.
yeah, it's good to put Ron on the cover. Okay, so I think we're down to announcements. And so I think the meeting, are we still going for the first Tuesday in December?
Yes, we have received an additional exemption list, one from DLNR. We received it after the deadline for agenda items for this meeting, so it didn't make it onto this agenda, but I'd like to request that it be added to next month's agenda.
That's right. Okay. And then are there any other announcements, Rachel or Jay or Michelle?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to further the 508 complaint. I don't know if a pig is appropriate rather than full council, but I'm open to further discussion. Doesn't have to be next month. It can be January too. I know we have a lot going on, but I'd like to keep that as something maybe come back to.
So we would have a pig for the rules or a pig part. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just know we've done the pig before when we've had, sort of separate discussions that don't,
Okay.
don't take the entire council. So I'm not sure if it's the best way or if it's better just to keep it on the agenda and do it on the full council call.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I think the last time there was a pig, there was like 13 members. So
That's true. Yeah, it's small enough that we
if we were a pig,
that's a good
I'm
point.
not sure if we'd all be like on the pig and then on the agenda. So to me, it seems maybe better just for Sunshine Law to stay on the agenda.
Sure.
But I welcome any pig discussion, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so then I think
Excuse me, what is a pig?
Oh,
It's a permitted interaction group, Jay. And it's limited to one less than quorum.
Okay.
And quorum is 1/2. So that would mean with, I'm not even, yeah, it's, you have your quorum has a unique legal definition, which is
Right.
1/2 of the members that exist, as opposed to the number of members that the council is entitled to. So your quorum would be based on 4 members would be 3, and that would limit the pig to 2.
Yep, fair point. Fair point.
So,
Thank you.
We would be, I think, happier if all of you could weigh in, and I think Sunshine Law does allow discussion, especially for so pigs should have that funny limitation of you have to report back at, you get a charge at one meeting, then you go off and you meet separately, and then you have to report back at a second meeting, and you can't discuss or take action at that meeting. You have to wait for a third meeting before you can discuss and take action. So it's designed that way to protect the public, but it also means that it has some challenges in terms of scheduling.
yes, I do remember that. Wasn't Robin Kay? He was kind of stuck on that third meeting and he couldn't give his presentation, but he was terming off.
Yeah.
Like
Very frustrating, very frustrating.
yes. So they went through this whole pig meetings, and then his third meeting was his last meeting. So he wasn't actually going to be able to say their findings because he's actually terming off as a member. So I think that was frustrating for Robin. So, okay, so it sounds like we're going to be discussing forestry and wildlife and aquatic resources, and I believe engineering division's proposed changes to the DLNR list at the next meeting, and also the rule amendment sounds like we're going to be talking about that at every meeting, at least until April. Is that right? Sounds like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't know if April has a significance necessarily. In, that date came, or the month came up as it relates to the ADA thing, but as far as the rules, just when we're ready to move forward, hopefully it doesn't have to lag or anything.
is the April date something mandated from the legislature, was it? That electronic documents had to be ADA compliant? Are we trying to meet?
My understanding it's a federal
Or just meant
mandate.
the date? Was there a state push to have documents ADA compliant within the state by a certain date? Is
Well,
the
No,
April?
I don't know by a certain date. There's certainly the DCAB has a policy of wanting all documents that are posted publicly to be ADA compliant. But I don't know that there's any. Do you?
Well, I had heard
We'll
this
check.
April,
We'll check and
date.
find out.
it was put out as the day that the state agencies have to be in compliance.
By DCAB?
But yeah, I believe that's what DCAB put out, but we should verify.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
verify.
But that's what we've been operating by.
That shouldn't have any impact on your discussion of the rules.
Yeah.
No, not of the rules. It just highlighted what I feel is something that needs
Discussion.
yeah, more discussion on how we're implementing that ADA accessibility. How are we determining compliance? I guess how the state is currently sort of doing their checks and whether that truly sort of meets the letter of the rules and the law for ADA compliance. And we have experience in my firm, just my personal experience of meeting compliance federally, and then the state rejecting that compliance, saying it doesn't meet the state's ADA check. And so I just think we're putting in the rules that.
Michelle, can you say which agency gave you that determination of non-compliance?
Oh no, ERP.
Oh, our staff.
Yes. Yeah, I think
Okay.
where a lot of documents are sort of failing, right? The accessibility check on the
Okay,
state.
well, we'll see what software app we're using to
Yeah,
do
and
the review.
yeah, there's great communication. I just think that there's a gap between when we say that something is accessible or not accessible through the ERP check. I think that's not the same as how other federal agencies, right, meet those challenges. And I think it's a software thing for sure, and a manual
Chair,
check.
would you like us to put that on the next agenda for discussion? But if we can find out more and provide that to you.
Sure.
It's
Do you
certainly
happen
things
to
like,
have experience of dealing with other states and how they are
our
looking at
company
the
just
federal
had
mandate?
our company just did an internal working like a writer's cafe series, and we just did a 508 compliance session 2 days ago. So we have folks on staff in our company that do this work for various states and federal agencies, and Hawaii is the only one that's rejecting our accessibility checks. And so there's a lot of internal discussion. How do we meet what the state is calling accessible when what we're producing does meet sort of the federal requirements for accessibility, and trying to figure out how to help sort of foster that discussion, so that if and I've heard it from other county agencies and other consultants.
Michelle, is your company using a specific software to do your own internal?
We use both Adobe, and we also use something called Common Look.
Okay, Adobe, and what was the other one?
Common Look.
Common Look.
There are other programs. They all meet the same WCAG, WC. What's about it? The WCAG.
Yeah, it's WCAG. There's a number associated with it.
Right, 2.2A is the level, and so these are the web content accessibility guidelines.
2.1. 2.1 is in title 2 for the ADA.
Our 508 people say for federal projects we do it to a 2.2A standard.
Okay.
But
thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I'm concerned because there's certain things like tables and figures and all the scanned documents that we include, right, in EAs and EISs that aren't searchable, and that give errors, and there's tricks and things to sort of make that work for the Adobe accessibility, but it's a lot of work, and for longer documents, it's a real challenge to sort of meet those standards. And I'm concerned is this, as we go from it being optional to it being required, implications for.
So am I hearing that it would be less of a burden on applicants and their environmental consultants if what the state used was consistent with what the Fed's standards are? So
Yes.
that, yes, okay.
And for state and county agencies as well, who I hear are also sort of having
Yeah,
challenges
understood.
getting things sort of accepted. So not just from the private sector, but public as well. And maybe it's just a matter of guidance, and it's a matter of sitting down and having a real sort of open discussion.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I think it's actually a really great point. If you're meeting federal standards, but you're not meeting state standard, obviously, for some reason, I thought we always followed federal standards as well. But maybe that's different. And maybe it's also a software hardware thing. So I'd be curious to find out what it is in the end,
Right.
Yeah. And then I'm sure our AG would know as well. If there was, I'm sure there must be a focal point where somebody's making these decisions about what is ADA compliant and Word docs or something, maybe. I'm not sure.
Likely to be DCAB in the Department of Health. And their AGs are different from ours.
Yeah.
So our AG may not have that kind of expertise, but one of the AGs that provides legal services to DCAB might have that information, or DCAB itself probably does. So we'll follow up.
Yeah, I think that's great. One thing I will ask is, so for some reason I thought when we do rule amendments, there's a list of steps so that we can follow along. Like it goes to this agency, it gets published by the lieutenant governor. Is there such a list, or kind of like a flow sheet of how rule amendments are supposed to happen in the scheme of things?
I think it just got tweaked. So this year, so by the governor's office, because the governor is the one who adopts the final rule.
Okay.
So we'll find that guidance and add it to the materials for the December 2nd meeting. Are you thinking of meeting at 9 or at 1 for calendar purposes?
It's actually up to you, Mary Alice. I am free that day and I'm open anytime. So it's up to you and your schedule and everyone else's schedule too.
Thank you. Others on the town?
I'm not available from 9. I'm not available in the morning.
Okay.
I am available in the afternoon.
1 o'clock would work for you, Jay?
Yes.
Okay, and I see Rachel nodding. Michelle? Okay, how about 1 o'clock then? We go back to 1 o'clock.
Okay. And I'm glad you could make it to the meeting today.
Thank you. I am glad too. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I'll close the meeting. It's 9:44 a.m. And thank you all for attending the meeting today. And we'll see you on December 2nd at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Bye.
Aloha. Mahalo.
Thanks.